The ultimate goal of the European Union is to replace all animals used in science. Much progress has been made, but many of the solutions that make us live better and longer still continue to involve animals. We must all work together to move away from using animals in science and testing. An effective way of advancing this is to better understand where, when, how and which animals are used in Europe. Allures is the EU's new database on the use of animals for scientific purposes. It's the most comprehensive repository on animal use for scientific purposes in the world. The user-friendly Allures is free and accessible to everyone. Whether you're an interested citizen, an NGO, a scientist or a policymaker, there is more information available to you today than ever before. Get data on each use of an animal and what type of procedures are performed. Learn in which areas animals are still needed for research and testing and what types of animals are being used.
Genetically altered animals are animals whose genes have been either genetically engineered to incorporate a gene or to inactivate a gene, or it can be nature itself that have changed a gene. So the benefits in scientific research of using genetically altered animals is that it offers the means of new and better ways of understanding, preventing, and treating human diseases.
Find out which areas use the most animals, in which procedures animals can experience the most suffering, and which legal requirements lead to animal use. Identify where science urgently needs to develop alternative approaches. Determine where to focus R&D efforts and funding.
The EU legislation requires that we minimize any pain or distress to animals, and we can do this in a whole range of ways. For example, we can use anesthetics, we can use pain-relieving drugs, we can design studies so that they cause the minimum of pain and distress to animals, and we can, of course, house them in the best possible way. So the EU legislation requires that the severity of procedures on animals must be reported. But what do we mean by severity? Let me give you an example. If an animal receives a new medicine and has a blood sample taken, that would be a mild level of severity. If that new medicine caused some side effects, then that might become a moderate procedure. And if those side effects became really major, and for example, an animal died, then that would be a severe procedure.
The EU is committed to the protection and welfare of animals still used in science. All animal research and testing in Europe must comply with very strict laws. No living animal can be used for scientific purposes without prior authorization. As soon as an alternative, non-animal method is available, animal use can no longer be authorized.
The EU legislation protects animals used for science in Europe by setting out a framework and minimum standards for regulating the use of animals in science. This legislation makes the use of animals in science more transparent because researchers and member states must report how many animals they use each year, as well as the species involved and the purposes for which these animals are used. This transparency helps to protect animals because we are able to better understand where more focus needs to be directed towards the promotion of animal-free approaches. We need this transparency because the public have many concerns around this use of animals. They expect every possible action to be taken to ultimately end the use of animals and their suffering.
Let's work together to care for animals and aim for better science.